Welcome everyone to my podcast. Today I have Lainey on here, and she is here to tell us about her story, how she got into dogs, and just take us from the beginning until now.
Okay, yeah, hey, I'm Lainey. I am Eiszeit GSD on Instagram. That is my new handle. I was originally Lorelei GSD. I got into dogs back in 2018. My sister was a college rower at the University of Texas, and she decided it'd be a good idea to foster a dog. It was not a good idea to foster a dog as a D1 athlete living in an apartment. She went and got a super emaciated German Shepherd from the shelter, and that dog was kind of a mess. She named her Lorelei, and I was about to graduate from college at the time. I was a senior. And I was like, oh man, I really want a dog after graduation. And I felt like that was my dog for some reason. But I said, okay, if I don't get this job offer, I was interviewing for a job for post grad. And I said, if I don't get this job offer, it's not my dog. I got the job offer. I got the dog. I drove out to Texas to get her. And then my sister had created an Instagram account for that dog while she was her foster. So I personally would have probably never done that. I was not big into social media back then at all. But my sister told me, hey, you got to keep posting on this Instagram account because all my friends from school are going to miss this dog. So I got on the account. I started seeing what people were doing with German Shepherds online. And a lot of it was Schutzhund, a lot of it was bite work. PSA was really kicking up around that time. And so I kind of got more and more into the idea of actually buying a German Shepherd to be able to get into sports. So it was a few years. I was in post grad. I was partying. I was running around at my new job. I didn't really have the money for a second dog, but I just knew that was something I wanted to do in the future. So I did some AKC work with Lorelei, did some sports there, drive sports like barn hunt, fast cat, dock diving, things like that. Started training obedience, and I knew that I wanted a puppy. Then, unfortunately, during COVID and everything, my cousin that I was very close to passed away. And a few things came together where it was basically like, I need to just do this. Like, if this is something I really want to do, there's never going to be a perfect time. There's never going to be a perfect setup. I need to just kind of take the plunge. And so, over the winter of 2020 to 2021, I reached out to Alexis Roy, or Crow now, with Furgarten German Shepherds. And I did that based on a recommendation from my friend Mackenzie. And I basically reached out and said, hey, I know I'm a renter. I know that, I already have a dog. I know you don't know me and I'm brand new to sport, but I really want to get involved and I want to do Schutzhund. There was a club local to me that I had not been out to, but I was, I have clubs in my area. I've met this club. I've seen this club, I kind of want to hit the ground running. And she basically took a chance on me and saw, that I was interested and that I wanted to get started. So then from bringing sister home, obviously the last 3 years have been a whirlwind. I brought her home and then I raised a puppy basically every year after that. I had sister in 2021. Yeah. I had sister in 2021. I had baby Todd in 2022. And then I had Daphne in 2023. And then over the course of 2024, I was working mostly with a Doberman named Pepper. So really every year after that, I would say I've continued to learn and grow with sister, but I've also raised more puppies. Like sister was me learning how to do Schutzhund. Baby Todd was me trying to develop a system. And then Daphne, I got to do basically the way I wanted to raise dogs. So that was really cool. I think I got a lot of experience really fast. Obviously, over the last 3 years, I've also had a lot of horrible stuff happen to me because the dog world is honestly awful. And I've made a lot of friends, lost a lot of friends, had really great help, had really horrible help. Most recently, obviously, we were able to go to GSDCA Nationals and place fourth, and then we were able to go to the WSB World Qualifier, as well as be in the American Schutzhund National Championship for 2023, and that was all with the help of our coach, Yuri Veth. So that has been really cool to be able to get to do those things with his help, especially in production.
So with your other dogs, what are you doing with them? Are you doing IGP or AS?
That is the question on the people's minds. I'm in kind of a transitional phase right now, and sorry if you can hear the puppy crying, but She should lay down here in a second. So obviously sister now has championship level tracking for IGP. So it's kind of silly to leave the world of IGP with her. She's so young. She's only 3 years old, but she can track. So why wouldn't you continue to compete with the dog? I do love IGP. I think it is the best sport. I really enjoy it. I also love American Schutzhund, so I love doing those things with her. But where I'm at right now, I'm kind of in a transitional phase, and I don't really have a clear path forward with my puppy, with Daphne. So, kind of depending on this fall, this winter, and where I'm living and what I'm doing at that time, I'm not really sure yet what I want to do. Right now, I'm doing her helper work, so it's it's been kind of interesting, and basically depending on what we have access to will kind of define the path that I walk with her. Right now she's trial ready in both tracking for IGP or article search for AS, and then her obedience is like very close. Like she would be ready to go, but she's had almost no protection. So that is kind of the next step for her.
So do you have your own club?
No, I don't have a club. When I originally started in the sport, I joined a club. The club had some interesting things going on over the couple years that I was a member, 2 years-ish. And I ultimately took over as president, but then basically mainly due to some personal relationship issues, I ended up stepping down as president and then was removed from the club. And basically since then, I have just trained more, only going to seminars like once a month or workshops with Yuri, because I have really found that the club model is just broken in the United States. I've just found that it's too risky with personalities. I have a tendency to invest a lot in other people, and then to see that just kind of disappear is just really not for me. So I hope one day to have some land where I can host a training group, that is kind of on my own terms. But no, I don't have any plans to be a member of a club, and I haven't been for a while, for a year.
Before we get into everything about Worlds, I want to get into information for anyone who might not be well versed in what it takes to get there, as far as the trials, like the differences and like SV versus, all of those things.
I can definitely lay that out. I would say it's a really misunderstood part of IGP overall, obviously, because IGP being the oldest organization has kind of the most complex structure, and a lot of people don't really understand what it looks like. So a lot of the time when you see people trialing and you see them posting their results, most of the time they are doing a club trial, either their club or another club in their region. So a club trial is where it's your training group or on your field with the people that you know. And club trials are great, obviously, but you usually kind of get your home field advantage with a club trial. You often get to work with your helper. You get to know a little bit about the tracking beforehand, maybe even get to track on those fields beforehand and things like that. The next step up is actually the regional level, and I've seen it be a misunderstanding. So I've seen it actually be a misunderstanding that people think you have to qualify for the regional level in some case. That's not true. The regionals all across the country are hosted by USCA. There's 2 main IGP organizations in the country for German Shepherds. There's USCA, GSDCA. GSDCA is affiliated with AKC, and USCA is like the splinter one that's not. But USCA is the more popular organization that has more trials and things like that. So they host regional championships all over the country. The country's broken up into like 7 or 9 regions or something like that. So when you see those big championships, like we were 3rd at the Mideast Regional Championship, like these are big trials. A lot of them can have like 30 dogs. But there's no qualification to enter the regional level. There's no qualifying score or anything like that. There are 3 main national championships. So 2 organizations, 3 main championships. USCA hosts a USCA national championship, which most people, when they talk about nationals, that's the one they're talking about. You need to have entered a regional, and you need to have done at least a 270 at a club trial or the regional trial, some kind of trial. So that is the national championship. It's usually held in the fall. This year it's like Halloween weekend. Then USCA hosts an all-breed championship, not just German Shepherds, which is called WDC, and that is in the spring in May. So USCA kind of has this option where you could be in the spring or you can be in the fall. You can have a German Shepherd, you can have another kind of dog. Those are their 2 national championships. Versus GSDCA only has 1 national championship. It's in the spring in April. The qualification last year, I think, was a 250. You need to do a 250. So the points, it's out of 300. It's 100 points per phase. So you need to do a 250. And that was only qualification for making the GSDCA National Championship. One point that I think a lot of people are really confused on is they say, oh, I want to be competitive in IGP. Like, I need to have a more serious working dog or something like that. You know, I really want to do a regional or I want to do a national. Those are really honestly attainable. Like, even if you need a 270 to go to the national championship, it's still, you know, that's 90, 90, 90. Or if you don't have the strongest protection dog, you can make up some points in tracking and obedience. And still be able to qualify for the national. So that's kind of the national championship structure in IGP. And then from the national championships, so from the spring, from USCA and GSDCA, they basically have this joint agreement to make the world teams. When we get to send people overseas, we get to send 10 people. So the organization, or we get to send 5 people and an alternate. So the organizations get to send 10 people each to what's called the joint qualifier trial. So it's basically where you decide who gets to be the world team. They take the top 5 from WDC and the top 5 from USCA Nationals. So you get 10 from USCA. And then they take the top 10 from GSDCA Nationals. And that makes up the 20 people that compete at the qualification trial to then be top 5 and the reserve to make the team. Again, it sounds all really convoluted, but it's really not. It's kind of just, it's a lot more accessible than people think it is to make the national championships. And then the very top people from those championships are the ones that need to worry about the qualifier and what that trial looks like. So that's kind of the setup of the trials. And the reason it's like that is because USV is the German Shepherd Championship, World Championship. It's the one associated with the SV organization, which is the governing body that looks after the German Shepherd breed as a whole. So it's kind of like the main quote unquote championship for performance if you have a German Shepherd. But you might have also noticed there are other world championships like the FCI World Championship, which is an all breed world championship, or you might have noticed the Malinois World Championship. Like there's different world championships for specific breeds as well as all breeds. So back to WSV, we send a team overseas to Germany basically, and that's the German Shepherd World Championship. There's other ones. There is the one that people might have seen Dominic Scarberry win last year. That is the one that includes a show component. But yeah, what most people don't realize is there's not one world championship. But like if you were to say the main character world championship, like this is like the main character one that we're talking about.
So as far as everything that went on with you and World, so
yes.
Did you know when you first bought Sister that this was a potential issue?
No, I didn't. And if I had known, I still would have bought the puppy anyway. Like I was very much on the page of, hey, I want to have a dog that can heel. Like that looks awesome. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we were not talking about world teams. That was not the conversation. I did not know. And then there was a kind of an uproar in 2022 when USCA started talking about how they would eventually be following the SV guidelines more closely and things like that. It was like a social media coverage, and they were talking about long to stock breeding being illegal, which I was like, okay, word, but like everybody does that, right? It's still happening. There's a lot of things that are illegal under SV breeding, including AI, for example. At that point in time, I had a lot of friends that had dogs that were products of AI or products of long to stock. I was in a club with a training director who had AI dogs and long to stock dogs. Like I really didn't think it was a problem, but I did see the posts of like, hey, we're going to start adhering to these rules more strictly. But I think a lot of people, there's a whole harmonization process that we can talk about, but I think a lot of people are now aware of the intent to adhere more strictly to the guidelines given by the German SV. However, they have thrown out a lot of different grace periods or like getting up to speed periods, because the guidelines don't just apply to your current dog, they apply to the last 3 generations of your dog's pedigree. So a lot of people have had questions, obviously, about being grandfathered in, because how can you be compliant with a dog who has an issue 3 generations back?
Yeah.
You know, how do you ever get compliant? How do you ever become compliant? So I think a lot of people were confused that we had until 1/1/2025. And unfortunately, I kind of just had to be the precedent setting case where we found out that we're really kind of not getting that grace period, depending, of course, what organization you're a part of and what you're trying to do.
So you were aware of it like before you made the alternate, you made the team as an alternate, and then you had
I was aware that
you
I
thought
was
you were grandfathered in.
Yes, I thought she would be grandfathered in. I actually kind of thought it might be our last year because of the 1/1/2025, or I didn't know if she was going to be included or her progeny were going to be grandfathered in or exactly how it would work. We obviously talked to many people more knowledgeable than myself in the sport, and it was very much like nobody cares. That's been the way it's been. Your dog's going to be grandfathered in because of 1/1/2025. And then obviously, like, I think what people forget is they accepted my entry and then to the national championship and to the show. And actually, at the show, they tried to award her Universal Sea Garen. And I was like, oh, she doesn't have a breed survey. Like, she can't win that. And they were like, oh, okay. Like, and then obviously they sent us the paperwork to go declare for the qualifier, declare for the world team. We went to the qualifier. They allowed us to compete, and I'm like, okay, like it seems like everybody's on the same page. 1/1/2025. And obviously it wasn't until well after we made the team that I found out that there might be a problem. Obviously, since everything happened, now it does appear that they are adhering to those rules. But I think that there's been a lot of confusion about the grandfathering and all this stuff. And even after my social media post explaining why we wouldn't be part of the team went really viral, shared more than 200 times across the dog community, we still haven't seen any public communication from either GSDCA or USCA as far as clarifying any of the guidelines
I
for
was wondering that. I was
embarking.
gonna ask. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I think that it's been really tough because these organizations are made of volunteers. It's been really tough. You want to be patient, especially with a volunteer organization. They're doing their best. They're trying to figure out what's best for the breed. But the reality is that there's a lot of problems with the rules as they stand, and they're also not communicating the rules or how they affect people. So it's just been really, I think, stressful for a lot of people, especially because they're not sure exactly where their dog stands.
So how did you find out that you were no longer going to be qualified?
I got an email from the SV committee at GSDCA.
They're just like, hey, by the way, all that
Yeah,
excitement,
after
all that
we
excitement, take it away.
yeah, after we had signed the paperwork, booked the flights, travel, all that kind of stuff, got an email. Yeah.
So I know that you posted that you're still going to go because, again, like you just said, you paid for everything already and had planned for this travel.
Yeah.
Do you think that you're going to regret going, just watching, just, being upset that you know that you were supposed to be down there on the field and you're not going to be?
I think what helps is that Sister was reserve. So it's possible we wouldn't have competed anyway.
Yeah.
Obviously, the reserve preps because in past years we've had the reserve need to step up as soon as like the night before they're supposed to go on. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I'm still going. At the time, I did think I was still going, but right now I'm kind of debating on going and losing money on the refund or things like that. A lot of things in my life are in flux right now. Like things are kind of really messy right now, so I'm not really sure exactly what my plans are. But I do think that if we went, we would have a really nice time. Like, it is still an incredible opportunity to see a lot of amazing representatives of the breed all across the world, and our good friends Teresa and Eirik are USA #1. So I would love to go still support them. And I think it's still a great opportunity to go learn and see the dog club culture in Europe and all that kind of stuff. I actually have a unique opportunity through my work to take an international trip this year. And so I was going to like have this be that trip. So if I don't go, I'm a little bit like in a bad situation there where I still needed to go somewhere. And I really wanted it to be something I could do with the dog. So yeah.
Yeah, you've definitely, like many other people have said, handled this with grace. I know a lot of other people would have been a little bit more harsh with their words. I definitely wouldn't have handled it as well if I would have been so pissed off. Rules are one thing. Obviously, most rules are there for a reason and guidelines and stuff like that, but something as trivial as short to a long haired dog being bred is just like, it blows my mind. So who are Sister's parents? Like, where is this problem coming from?
Sister's parents are both stock coat. So her parents are full short coat German Shepherds, but her mother's mother, so her maternal grandmother, was a long coated German Shepherd that was, breed surveyed with USCA, was multiple time V rated, national or regional Sagarin, national competitor, all different things. So it's not like she was a random untitled long coat dog. You know what I mean? Like it was a good long coat dog. Not to say that dogs that aren't titles are good, but like I think I think I think the biggest thing for me through all this is like I love rules. I'm the ruliest rule person of all time. Sorry, my blue tongue from having a Slurpee, but
I was wondering. I noticed that. I was wondering if you had like Jolly Ranchers or something.
I got a Slurpee on the way home. It's so hot here. I don't want any solid food, just liquid food. Anyway, yeah, like I love rules. I have been a huge freaking, I was one of those kids where they're like, you should be a lawyer because you're annoying. You know what I mean? So yeah, like I have no problem with rules, but what I do have a problem with, and what I'm realizing USCA and GSDCA and the way that they follow SV guidelines is it's actually a complaints-based system. So it's really hard to prove that somebody did AI with their dog unless we knew the dog was dead at the time of the breeding. Otherwise, you really can't prove that someone used AI or things like that.
Yeah.
And so what a complaints-based system says is all this stuff is hard to prove. So unless somebody complains about you, you can do whatever you want. And so what that encourages, obviously, is if somebody has a personal issue with you or somebody could personally benefit from you being disqualified for something or something along those lines in anyone's situation, a complaints-based system sets up that kind of corruption. And I always tell people, imagine a middle school where you only had to take a test if someone said, oh, I don't think they're learning enough. You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't really work out too well. So I think that unfortunately, if they want to implement these rules in this country, which is totally their prerogative, and, then people have to live with that. If they want to play in that sandbox, you have to play by those rules. But the issue is that when you have a complaints-based system, it's very hard to be fair. It's very hard to equally apply rules to people. And, through this whole thing, people keep talking about me being graceful, but a lot of it is just that I don't want to burn a bunch of bridges, man. Like, I love this sport. I want to keep doing it for decades. And I don't want to be online, screaming my head off that things aren't fair just because we lost out on this amazing opportunity. Because the rules are the rules. And I completely know that. I think the problem that I had was that the rules were very confusing and were not communicated in a way that I was able to follow them. Obviously, we did enter. Like, it's not like I snuck onto the team. You know what I mean? We entered public championships and everybody signed off on us being there. The judge signed our scorebook. We were on the team. We did the paperwork. And like, I think that is really the source of my frustration, is just that it's really hard to have rules that are fair when that is the issue. And then obviously a lot of young people like myself who get in the sport and they have no idea all these things you must do to be eligible for a show rating and the new rules and the new structure cancels any opportunity for kind of a Cinderella story where you have a German Shepherd, the dog is good enough, you're good enough, you have a community that's good enough, and you make it there. What these rules do is they really restrict the competition to a few people that do this as their whole career, and they kind of remove the opportunity for people to kind of come up through the system. Yeah. If you look at all of the SV guidelines and what you need to have, not only for your dog, but for the dog's 3 generations backwards, the only pedigrees that are consistently following those guidelines are in Europe, because it's much easier in Germany to not do AI when the whole country can be crossed in 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
So I think that it encourages people that they need to import a dog from overseas if they want to do anything in the sport, which I think is really too bad, obviously, for all our American breeders.
If you're planning any litters with sister.
Yeah, it is something I've been thinking about possibly doing this winter, especially if we do go to WSB. Obviously, I have the chance to do a live breeding with a male overseas. So that would be very cool to bring over some genetics we don't have over here. But, it's been a really big struggle for me because it's really not my goal ultimately. I just want to keep competing with the dog that I love. So I have a very narrow window of opportunity. She's going to be 4 in February. You do unfortunately kind of have like this little bit of race against time where they need to be young enough and healthy enough to be able to do that. But then you also only get so many competition years. So it's
Yeah.
been a big debate for me if I want to take the time to do that. Obviously, it's also super risky. To breed your female, anything can happen. And so, yeah, it's been kind of a big debate about what I want to do exactly there. And
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I'm racing time too with my female Savvy because I
yeah,
really wanted to close her PSA2 before I bred her, so I could have like the only and first PSA2 German Shepherd litter. But she's 3; she's gonna be 4 in September, and I'm just like, okay, obviously her health is more important to me than having a certain title that I know she can do. But I had a baby, so everything's kind of been postponed. But
yeah.
so I know. So with your upcoming dogs, are you limited in the same way?
So Daphne is sister's half sibling and they have the same mom. So they have the same maternal grandmother. So yes, she is also long to stock and would not be able to go to WUSV. However, I think people have a misunderstanding of why, like, a lot of people have said that. They're like, well, aren't you devastated because Daphne is in the same boat? And I think people misunderstand not only what opportunities there are out there to make world teams, but then also um like my whole point in having the dogs. Like, I don't have Daphne because I want another world team dog. Like, they're very close in age, number one. And number two, I just like her. I think she's hilarious and she's really fun to work. um I have sister, because I get along with her so well. We're best friends, and I have Daphne because she makes me laugh. There are other world team chances. I can do AWDF in the spring, which is another championship with sister, and that's FCI, which is all breed championship. All they care is that you have a purebred dog. And so I think that that's a great path. Daphne obviously can be competitive in American Schutzen. I could switch to PSA with her. Really anything. Like, she's a baby. She's not even 2 years old. And so, yes, she's affected by the same rule. But even if she was safe in the same rule, I don't think it's right for me to continue giving my money to the two organizations right now with the way things stand, because I don't believe in a complaints-based system. I don't think it's fair. And so, I'm kind of trying to put my money where my mouth is and try not to support an organization that I think is doing something unfair.
I definitely agree. So, do you have any upcoming puppy plans or no?
But for me to have a puppy, like a
Yeah,
new puppy,
yeah,
no. No, like I said, I've had a new dog every year. Like, I am tired. I'm really tired. I'm looking forward to, continuing to enjoy these two girls. I think if I did breed sister, obviously it would be very tempting to keep something, because if I did breed her and she had a litter of healthy puppies, I don't know if I would ever breed her again. Now, if I bred her and she had a litter that didn't do well or she didn't take, I also don't know if I would ever do it again. But um, I think I would be more likely to place the one that I would want to keep with a close to friend or something like that. I just, like, with the way my life is right now, I just do not. I'm in a transitional period over the next year, you know, not pregnant, but kind of that energy of, like, I'm doing a life change, you know
yeah.
what I mean? So it just doesn't make sense right now. And then obviously, if I do want to be, if I want to go try to make WSV again, I would have to be looking at importing a young adult dog from Europe, which is also something I don't really want to do right now. I think another big part of it is a lot of what people have been talking about, specific people benefiting from the change, or like corruption in the organizations and things like that. And like the whole time I've been really careful not to name any names or talk about any of that, because I really don't think it's what's important. I think what's important is discussing what a complaint system does to the community and the kind of position it puts people in. A lot of people, we're animals, we do things to better our own situation. Like, I understand, why certain people would do things at certain times to get ahead. And I know it's really tough to stick by, like, doing what's right, especially when you potentially, like, might lose out by doing something like that. So I guess I would just encourage people, like, if you don't what people are doing within a system, any system in the whole world, I don't really think personally attacking the people is, like, the answer. I think it's more about, like, where can we change the system, or where can we change that environment to kind of better reward ethical behavior more so, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You just have such a nice way of looking at it.
I'm trying to not have a mental breakdown, you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
I'm trying to do the meditation and get in the right headspace about it. I posted today like I'm almost done bitching about this, you know what I mean? Like today's my last day of talking about this negatively. So
With a complaint-based system, it just breeds such a negative and hateful and
yes.
toxic environment.
Yes.
Like you've already kind of said in just a nicer way.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that if they don't find a way to start addressing some of these problems, I think you're going to see more and more people going to PSA, more and more people going to American Schutzen and these other organizations that are just more focused on that kind of thing. You know, a lot of young people don't have the perspective. IGP people used to swear up and down, if they take out stick hits from the routine, we're out. We quit. We're going to go do our own sport. We're going to go join American Schutzen, blah, blah, blah. They took out stick hits and they didn't leave. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these people, they've been in it forever. And now there's a lot of people complaining like, oh, we see this corruption. We don't like the complaints-based system, blah, blah, blah. But they keep re-upping their club dues and they stay in the same sport. And like, that's just the reality. But I think the young people that are really getting into dog sport are really drawn to PSA and American Schutzen because I think they're more motivated to keep their young members. Like American Schutzen, for example, is article search and detection, not tracking, because they know that people in their 20s in the cities don't have access to 30 acres of farmland to go track on. Like anybody knows, it's simple business. If you make something accessible for people, if you make it easier to buy in, more people are going to do it. And I think that's what PSA and AS have done a really good job of doing.
It is serious because I know it's a passion and it's a hobby, but like at the end of the day, it's really not that serious.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to take it so seriously.
It's been completely my perspective as well. And to be honest, like a lot of people have said, wow, she's 3 years old. Wow, it's your first dog. You guys made the world team. I'm like, yeah, and I kind of got really lost in the sauce in doing that. Like, I did stop having fun. Most recently, like, that's what I was saying, transitional period. Like, I've really been struggling lately where it's like, you know what? If I were to just go do some hood rat bike work stuff where we do like a carjacking, like,
My husband's laughing.
I would love that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead, I'm absolutely killing myself to get these certain things perfect, and then the team accomplishment is taken from us anyway. So it's
Yeah.
like, I think I just need some time over the next little bit here to stop taking myself so seriously. It's absolutely my experience in Schützen clubs as well, where people are just not in the right headspace and need to start having some more fun.
Yeah. I definitely agree.
I do think that it makes you a little crazy if you have nothing else. If this is all you have, if dog sport is all you have, if your Instagram account is all you have, if any of that is all you have, PSA is all you have, it makes you like crazy in your head and you really can't respond to conflict or situations in a healthy way because you have nothing else making you happy, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
and I could definitely see that too. Like, I was definitely way more passionate before I had a baby and have work life events going on, and just that kind of, young, fresh, and hungry thing. I mean, I haven't been doing it for, forever. I think I've been in PSA for 4 years, five. Um, but it's all kind of gone away. Like, my priorities have changed. I don't care as much about titles. Everything is just a little bit different. And now I'm just more focused on like fun, doing things in my own time.
yeah, I think the perspective definitely helps a lot. And I think, I think on a certain level, everything that happened with Sister, I always wanted to say, like, no, I'm not doing this out of spite. I'm not motivated by spite. I'm not motivated by proving myself or whatever. And I think I was saying the right things, but I didn't necessarily always believe them. Like, it really did take making WSB to go, oh, you know what? We did that and I'm not any happier in my life. We really accomplished that. But like the quote unquote haters or the people that are annoyed by you still are the same amount annoyed by you and they still
So true.
they still don't think you deserved it anyway. And I think the whole summer this has just been like a big character development moment for me where it's like, yeah, you thought you weren't doing this to like prove it to yourself, but you definitely were like trying to prove it to yourself and you did it, and guess what? Like, things are still kind of a shit show. So, what are you gonna do next? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. And I think it takes a very mature person to be able to recognize that and then also admit it. So
Yeah.
I definitely applaud you for that. And your attitude towards the whole thing is definitely inspiring, I think, for a lot of people, and pushing for actual change, like we've already mentioned a few times, rather than just sitting on social media and complaining about it. It's like,
Yeah, I've been
do
trying really hard not to do that. That's for sure. Because I think once you get a reputation as a complainer, somebody that is just always negative or things like that, it's really hard to crawl out of that hole. And I don't want anyone's perception of me to be that.
I think it brought the community together in a lot of ways, which is good.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Still just showing the divide in beliefs, or even just the general confusion with everything. I think a lot of people were not aware of the rules, and the people that were, again, probably thought that they were just grandfathered in, especially if they're hearing, okay, January 1st 2025. It's like, I don't know if I'm looking at the wrong calendar, but we're still in 2024, so what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I think we would all still really appreciate an update there, but again, kind of none of my business, right? I don't intend to change anything about what I'm doing to meet those rules. I don't believe in them.
So thank you everyone for joining, and we hope you have a great night.